Hmm. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me today for this very brief introduction to an online meditation retreat program that I'm offering entitled Awakened Living. As you can see on the slide here, this is a 12-week program. It's a completely immersive program in which we will be taking a very deep dive into some of the earliest teachings of the Buddha. This program runs from May 19th to August 8th, and I'll speak more about the structure and the form, the outline of the program as this presentation continues. I'm also going to be offering a little bit of a teaching here on what's known in the Buddhist tradition as the Four Noble Truths, and in some schools that I tend to hang out in, we call them the Fourfold Task, or the Four Tasks, if you will. And that comes from one of my teachers, Stephen Batchelor. And those four truths are here on the screen. And they are as follows: life contains suffering, or dukkha. The origin of the suffering that life contains is craving. The end of suffering is the end of craving. And the path, the Eightfold Path. And if you go to, most Buddhist centers, monasteries, temples, you will very likely see these four truths presented in this way. And, when I was introduced to the Four Noble Truths many, many years ago, some 30, almost 40 years ago now, they fell short because, yes, this is true, and I recognize this to be true in my life. There wasn't a practice offered that could help us step out of that cycle of craving and suffering in life, what's known in the Buddhist tradition as samsara. So luckily, later in that same discourse where the Buddha gave the Four Noble Truths, he also outlines what we do with them. And this leads to a type of a practice that I'll discuss. Now, I know that I'm mentioning a lot of the Buddha here, and I'm also showing a lot of slides with images of the Buddha. I do want to highlight the fact here that when I teach, I am very passionate about teaching from a secular voice. I myself don't consider myself a Buddhist, but I'm somebody who has benefited greatly, immeasurably from these teachings. So I try to teach from that intersection where the roads of Buddhism, neuropsychology, and trauma-sensitive practices, and life in general, experiences of life, these paths all coincide, and I try to teach at that crossroads. Okay, this is what the Buddha said to do with these four. The Buddha said, such is dukkha. Dukkha is a Sanskrit word, a Pali word. It's very commonly translated as suffering. That is a very, that translation falls short, let's say. It's really, the way I like to think of dukkha is really the challenges of life. Or you might say dukkha could be seen as the argument with the inarguable aspects of life, such as birth, sickness, aging, and death, not getting what one wants, getting what one doesn't want, and so forth. Such is dukkha. It can be fully known. It has been fully known. So we're invited to really explore this quality of struggle in our life. Such as samudaya. Samudaya, another Sanskrit word or Pali word, it means arising. And it's speaking to the arising of craving. And I've come to understand craving as being shorthand for any form of emotional reactivity. So, such as the arising of our reactivity, it can be let go of. It has been let go of. Such is nirodha. Nirodha, Sanskrit or Pali, it means the cessation or ceasing. It can be experienced. It has been experienced. And that's pertaining to the cessation of our craving or the cessation of our reactivity. We can know what that feels like when that reactivity passes. That's quite important. Such is the marga, the path. It can be cultivated. It has been cultivated. And so we will spend quite a bit of time in the program going through the Four Noble Truths or the Four Tasks or the Fourfold Task, however you want to frame that. And we will engage in practices that allow us to bring this fourfold task into our lives. I want to look here just for a moment at these phrases here. It can be fully known. It has been fully known. It can be let go of. It has been let go of. It can be experienced. It has been experienced. It can be cultivated. It has been cultivated. And when I was first introduced to this passage in the text, it seemed to me that the Buddha was teaching from his own point of view, right? It can be fully known, it has been fully known because I've done it. And that's why I'm teaching this, is because I know this can be done. I know it's possible. And from a certain perspective, that makes a lot of sense. But the more I contemplated this passage, the more it seemed to me that the Buddha was saying that we already know our struggles, right? I mean, maybe not all of them in their entirety, but, I stub my toe against the wall on my way to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I can pause and really feel that and feel the argument. Why did that happen to me? How could I be so careless? Why didn't I turn the light on? Right? And I can really explore the option of letting that go. So we have fully known dukkha in certain circumstances, right? And I think that's what the Buddha is speaking to, is that these four tasks aren't that out of reach. We're actually doing this all of the time. But the idea is that here now we can formulate that into an intentional practice and cultivate this way of letting go of our reactivity as we move through our life. So that's the frame in which we will be exploring these four tasks in the upcoming online meditation immersive program. So here it is boiled down as a practice. Our dukkha, our struggle, is to be embraced or fully known. Actually, the Sanskrit word that's used for fully known there is parinya. Parinya means in the round or from every angle. So to embrace our dukkha, which is really an invitation to embrace our experience of life, right? Not just the joy and the laughter and the beauty of life, but also the struggle, also the tension of life, the suffering of life. Our emotional reactivity is to be let go of. And we'll look at several practices that allow that to happen. Once we let go of that reactivity, there's a type of relief. Even if the reactivity is very small and seemingly trivial, when that reactivity passes, there's a type of relief that can be felt there. And so we'll explore really getting into that and feeling that relief. And the ways to be cultivated. And the way here, the path, it's referring to the Eightfold Path, a set of practices that were given from the Buddha to his disciples. And that's here. And this is the very traditional way of offering the Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So just to speak a little bit to the phrase here, right view or right intention, this isn't right versus wrong. And very often teachers and scholars will use a different word for right, because it's very easy to fall into that binary thinking. This is right, this is wrong, right? We want to step out of that in these practices. I like complete view, complete intention, or perhaps even better these days, to my thinking, is appropriate view or appropriate intention. And, it's as if somebody asked us directions. Like, I live in Delaware right now. Somebody asked me how to get to Florida. The right view would be to go south. Right? That's the right way to go. And so if we're asking directions, how do we step off the wheel of our struggle and suffering? You go in the right direction down the path, down the marga, to that end. So that's one way of interpreting right view. I like appropriate view, appropriate intention. Also, the word that's used in Sanskrit, sama, it means right, but as in the right amount. So the right amount of a particular view, or the right amount of intention. And this leads to that finding that balance between too much and too little, the middle way. So again, we'll be exploring lots of different views on the Eightfold Path, and different ways we can interpret that, and different ways that those interpretations might make sense to us in our life. So the course meets twice a week on Sunday evenings. There are two sections, morning and evening, and it's on Sundays and Thursdays, and I'll get to the times in a moment. So on Sundays, we're going to be exploring the Four Noble Truths, or the Four Tasks, and the Eightfold Path. And on Thursdays, we're going to be exploring the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. So this is really a deep dive into these really, really profound texts. So I won't go too much into the Four Foundations of Mindfulness here, but just to mention them, and mention that is a big part of the course. And those include mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feeling tones or hedonic tones, mindfulness of mind, which includes our heart, and mindfulness of dhammas, which dhammas really is translated in many different ways, but here we could think of it as different frameworks for which we interpret our life through. And so we'll be looking at the Four Foundations of Mindfulness quite intensively throughout the course. The Four Foundations of Mindfulness, that phrase in general doesn't really sit well with me. I like the Four Abodes of Mindfulness, because that really speaks to these aspects of our experience as being resting places for which we can be mindful. Right? The abode of the body is home of our mindfulness, or the abode of the hedonic experiences of life becomes our home of mindfulness. Our mind and heart too becomes our home of mindfulness, and so forth. The frameworks which we'll be looking at include the 7 factors of awakening, and the Five Hindrances. Interestingly enough, including in some texts, mostly, it's often said that the four tasks in the Eightfold Path is also Dhammas. So we see them coincide here as well. So we'll be exploring many formal mindfulness meditations that bring these teachings to life, and informal practices, exercises that we can bring to our day-to-day experience that really help us integrate these practices into our life. So here's an outline of the course. Again, it's called Awakened Living. It's a 12-week online meditation program. It's quite immersive. The subtitle is Meeting Life with Compassion and Wisdom. Meeting Life with Compassion and Wisdom. The course launches on May 19th and closes on August 8th. And again, as I mentioned, there are two sections. Section A is on Sunday mornings and Thursday mornings from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. East Coast time. Section B, again on Sunday and Thursdays, this is in the evenings from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. East Coast time. Please do adjust your clocks or take into account the time difference if you're in the West Coast or if you're in Asia or in Europe. Please be mindful, no pun intended, of your time zone and calculate accordingly. The platform that we will be using is Zoom. The sessions will be recorded and made available to participants who are unavailable for the live sessions. And so you can do all of the sessions live if you wish. I'll be there live at all of the sessions. None of the teachings are pre-recorded. I'm there live at every session, at all the sessions. You can do just a few of the sessions live and miss some, or you can miss all of the sessions and do the whole thing in your own pace using the recordings. It's really up to you and however you're comfortable. I am available for one-to-one sessions throughout the course. No extra charge. There's no fee for that. You would just reach out to me through at some point during the course and say, oh, I feel a one-to-one session would be very helpful for my journey through these 12 weeks. Again, all the sessions include guided meditations and breakout rooms, Q&A, discussion. There's a lot of community building in these sessions. Also, this course and pretty much everything I offer is offered through a trauma-sensitive lens. I've done extensive studies with Gabor Mate and Dr. Peter Levine, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, Diane Poole-Heller, and so I'm quite versed in trauma and being informed and aware, and I tend to facilitate in such a way that that holds that space. So if you identify as being someone who's carrying trauma in your nervous system and you feel like you get triggered by certain topics, please don't hesitate to register for the course. Also, as I mentioned, everything that I tend to offer is offered within a secular voice. Yes, this course draws heavily on the Buddhist tradition, and so I will obviously be mentioning the Buddha and the teachings that he offered, but when I do so, I try to make those teachings available to people from all walks of life. Any background, any religion, no religion, everyone's welcome here. So you can find out more about the online meditation immersive program at my website, www.suchsweetthunder.org. Or if you feel you're ready to register, please go ahead and email me at my email address. It's here on the slide, chrisluard@yahoo.com. The fee is on a sliding scale, And if you go to the website, you check out the sliding scale, you still feel that it's out of your budget, please email me. There are scholarships available, and there will be a way to get you on board. So don't let the prices be prohibitive. So hope to see you on the retreat, and I will ring the bell just once to close the session. Thanks again.